Hello guys, welcome to this statistical tutorial, and now I bring up some scenarios to explain the topic of this video. First, you have one dependent variable and one independent variable. In this scenario, you need to run one-way ANOVA. I have two videos about one-way ANOVA in Armada YouTube channels named one-way ANOVA in R and one-way ANOVA in SPSS, but in Persian. I will write the link to watch this video in captions. If I want to say an example about this, for example, suppose that you want to compare cholesterol mean between A, B, and O blood groups. Now go to second scenario. Second, you have one dependent variable but two independent variables. In this scenario, you have to run two-way ANOVA. For example, you want to compare mean of cholesterol between gender and blood groups. In the first and the second scenario, we have only one dependent variable. But in the third scenario, we have more than one dependent variables with one independent variable. In this scenario, we have to fit one-way MANOVA. MANOVA means multivariate ANOVA. For example, you want to compare cholesterol and LDL means between gender subgroups. And this scenario is the topic of today's tutorials. Final scenario is about two-way MANOVA. In this scenario, we have more than one dependent variables and two independent variables. For example, you want to compare mean of cholesterol and LDL variable between gender and blood groups. In the future, I tried to record a video about two-way MANOVA, and then please subscribe and wait for that. Now let's go training about third scenario, means one-way MANOVA. Okay, we start our tutorial with a dataset about diabetes. In this dataset, there is more columns, but for one-way MANOVA, we prefer to work with the cholesterol and LDL blood indices and a factor named gender with male and female subgroups. In this time, I can to go to menu and click on some menu and run one-way MANOVA. But there is a missing. In other words, every regression and every statistical test needs some assumptions to be checked. But what's the assumptions for one-way MANOVA? In these times, I want to speak about assumptions and list them. Okay, I list 6 assumptions here. First, equality of variance and covariance matrices. In MANOVA, we check equality of variance with 11 tests and equality of covariance with a specific test named box M test. 2. Residuals have normal distributions. 3. There is a linear relationships between dependent variables and independent variable. 4. Observations are independent. To check about independent observations, we can use Durbin-Watson test. And 5th, there is non-significant multicollinearity, but it's not suitable for our MANOVA, because now we have only one factors, and when for example when you have more than one factors, for example the two-way MANOVA or regressions, you have to check about multicollinearity. And finally, absence of outlier, especially influential outliers in residuals. And we can check about outliers with residuals and Cook's distance and leverage values that I speak about this in the tutorials. Now, let's go to run a one-way MANOVA and later check about assumptions. Okay, to run one-way MANOVA, you need to go to Analyze menu, then click on General Linear Model, and then click on Multivariate. In this window, we have some place to import our variables. For example, we import cholesterol and LDL to this place as dependent variables, and import gender to fixed factors. On the right hand side of this window there is some menu, and you need to some clicks and some settings with these buttons. In the right hand side of this window, we see that there is model, contrast, and plots to set terms about your model, or to set a contrast or set plots. But since we have only one factors with two subgroups, in this time we don't need to go to these menus. And also for post hoc, if you have a factor with more than two subgroups, for example, you have blood groups replaced to genders with four subgroups, it's better to set some post hoc tests, for example, with Tukey. But now it's no need to do any things. In EM, or estimated marginal, means it's better to import gender to display means for genders place, and click on compare main effects with LSD. Then click on continue. In save menu, I prefer to click on standardized residuals, and also click on Cook's distance to check about influential residuals, and finally click on continue. In option menus, you have to click on descriptive statistics, estimates of effect size, observed power, and also homogeneity test. Click on continue, and then click on OK to see SPSS report. Before we can interpret results, I prefer to check about assumptions. First assumptions was equality of variance covariance matrices. In this report, we see that there is a table named box test equality of covariance, and in this table we see that p-value or SIG is 0.095, and it's more than 5%, and we can conclude that we have in this MANOVA equality of covariance matrices assumptions. In other words, in this report, we can conclude that there is equality of covariance matrices. Another tables we have to read is Leven's test equality of error variance. In this tables, we see that these assumptions This assumption is assumed, and we see that Sig or p-value of all dependent variables is more than 0.05 alpha levels, and then we can conclude that there is equality of error variances.